this is Gilgamesh. I'm now going to go through this movie. I've seen it 3 times. So I want to talk about this, go through this movie and do a in-depth, I'm going to lay out the story and everything and explain the characters. So this is the main cast of the movie. And it takes place in the 90s. And as Osgood Perkins said, who wrote and directed this, its biggest inspiration is Silent Lamb, which also took place in the 90s. And this is not a horror movie, this is a thriller. And the story is supposed to take place in Oregon, which if you've lived here in Oregon or been to a small town, it looks a lot like Oregon, even though it was filmed up in British Columbia, Canada. And so let's just go this. Maika Monroe's character, Lee Harker, she's this young rookie field agent named Lee Harker. And she's been raised by her single mother, Ruth Harker, played by Alicia Witt. And her mother's religious because she calls her and her mother says, "Have you said your prayers?" And then that's the first time we sort of get the encounter with her mother. But we go on to Blair Underwood, and I love him. Everybody's great in this movie. He plays her boss, Agent Carter. He's her supervisor, and so and he's actually brings a bit of humor and levity to the movie when it comes to the beginning of this movie. And he likes to drink. So, and then we meet his wife and his daughter. And his daughter, who plays Ruby, Carter, his young daughter, is she's a lot like Lee. She's sort of got this sort of where she's like, how do you put it? She's very monotoned with the way she talks and everything. And which is, and then you have Agent Bowen and so, and you have Nic Cage who plays Longlegs, and we find out what his name is later on in the movie. And so this is structured in the 70s, and there's a beginning that takes place in 1974. So you do get flashbacks to the 70s to, I think, and you find out this started in, I think, 1968. And basically, Longlegs targets girls with a birthday on the 14th of every month. And so, the thing about the Longlegs is that when we first meet him, we meet Lee when she's a young girl at her mom's home. And we see this vehicle driving, the station wagon, and we don't know who's driving it until later we find out who this, person is. But and Lee sees the vehicle parked, she goes out there and then suddenly hears cuckoo. So she turns around and she's heading back home, and I think she goes to the backyard and she looks to the left and there's a sound. The score's great in this movie. It's a fantastic score. Yeah, it's done by this Ziggy, I think is his name right here. Composed by Ziggy. And the music is all from the 90s. So, yeah. And so she turns to the left, and the same sound. And when I say this is not a horror movie, it's a thriller. It's an unnerving thriller. As the movie progresses, you get this uncomfortable. It's very much, it makes you uncomfortable. Makes everything feels not right. And Nic Cage is creepy as shit. It's very creepy, unnerving. It's just like you can remember Buffalo Bill because he was uncomfortably unnerving character, especially probably one of the most unsettling scenes in the whole Silence of the Lambs was when he's made. It's not when he's doing his lipstick and he's looking in the mirror and saying, "Do you want to fuck me?" As it's when he does the tuck and the dance playing wild horses, and it's so unnerving because you see his and he's and he's tucked his dick between his legs so you can't see his penis or anything, and he's trying to make it look like, okay, he wants to pretend that he's a woman. But then one of the most memorable scenes in the whole lines he ever gives is put the lotion on the skin or else it gets the hose again. And he said, put the fucking lotion on your skin or you'll get the hose again. It's so great that Craig Ferguson, when he did the Late Late Show, used to do that. And he did it funny because he would do the hand this. So, yeah, and people remember Buffalo Bill. Now, that's the same thing here with Longlegs. It's a memorable, creepy character. And like I said, not a horror movie, it's a thriller. And that's where people get wrong. This is not a terrifying movie, it's a creepy film. It's meant to creep you, be uncomfortable, haunt you in your head because of the way Nicolas Cage plays Longlegs. And like I said, the first time, the makeup makes him look unrecognizable. I'll get to the makeup but the first time, and this is not giving anything away, the first time in the movie you see him is when and then he's there and goes, look, it's the almost birthday girl. The way he says this is unsettling, creepy. And he's, then he suddenly goes, I remember I put on my long legs, and what about if I do this? And he bends down, and you get a very quick shot, and it goes to red, and that's when we get the title, Long Legs. And then we go to, at the FBI field office, where they're talking about this killer, Longlegs, that he's been killing for 30 years, and how they know it, because he leaves these cryptic messages at the house, but there's no evidence other than these letters that he's ever been in the house. So they team him up with, so that nobody has a fit. So she gets a partner, Fisk, and they go to this neighborhood, and all the houses look similar, like cookie cutter houses. And he says, I'll go and knock on the door and talk to somebody. Why don't you stay back? And she sort of tunes him out. You hear that sort of like where you barely hear the person. Then she goes, okay. And then as he's at the house, he walks off. She suddenly gets out, and then she starts getting this feeling, a premonition or whatever, some feeling about the house across. So she turns and looks up, and her partner comes back and goes, and she can't hear him at first. It's kind of muzzled, like if you have a hard time hearing. So it sounds like, and then he's out going, and she goes, that's the house, the killer's in there, we need to call. And they go, nobody's going to believe what you're saying. You obviously have never been in the field. He points this out to her, and so he goes, I'll knock on the home. And then she's standing there, he walks up, and he's knocking on it, she walks closer, and then you hear the door open, and he goes, you want to, have you seen, he's trying to talk to and next thing, he's shot. So he falls down, you see he's bleeding out his neck, and then she leans back, and then she gets out her gun and goes in the house. And there's plastic everywhere. This whole begin, the way it's framed, the director of photography does an amazing job, making this, setting the tone and everything. And it's like, the movie's intentionally unnerving. The principal, it's just this house has got why is there plastic everywhere? She goes upstairs, and then she tells the guy sitting on the bed who has his hands up, don't move. And he goes, I don't plan to move. And he just has this kind of blank expression on his face. He's not smiling or anything. And so she's, because of this, catching this guy, and her boss asks her, and Blair Underwood is great in this movie, by the way. He asks her for what happened at the shooting. And we don't find out what she tells him, but he wants her to look at, into this case. And there's something off about her. And her character's a fascinating character of someone who kind of doesn't relate to people. And there is, and by the time you get to the third act, you will find out things about her that can, but yeah, and so she's given this to, and she calls her mom, and her mom says, "Have you said your prayers?" And she goes, "Yes, Mom." Prayer, and trying to remind her prayers protect you. And so that's how you know her mother's religious. And so that's the first time we hear her mother, Ruth, on the phone. And so she basically, gets the case, and she starts going through the whole thing and it's like she starts. I'm not trying to give too much away. She's like looking, at the thing, and we're getting a flashback of what happened. We don't know exactly everything. That's what's fascinating about this. We're following Lee Harker. We're seeing everything through her perspective. So that's what works with this. It's like when you watch Silence of the Lambs. Jodie Foster, Scarlett, we're following Jodie Foster, and we're seeing everything through her perspective. And like the whole thing with her father, it's like her encounters with Hannibal Lecter and her trying to find the killer, Buffalo Bill. Here's the same thing. She's going through the whole, laying everything out and trying to figure out who is this Longlegs. How is he able to do this? That is the puzzle of this movie, and it's a fascinating how they go about revealing how this killer is able to kill. And I like the end of this movie. I thought that it works, and it's actually my favorite movie that Osgood Perkins has done. I really highly praise this. 3 times tells you how much I love this movie. So she's going through, and then her boss comes in, and basically she falls asleep. That's how hard she works on this case, and then her boss comes in, and they go out to drink, and she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I don't like drinking." If that's right, and so he starts drinking at this bar. It's a really nice setup. The camera angle is pull back and then they pull in. That's how you know you're dealing with a good cinematographer, is when they can pull back, have the camera back, and then steadily pull it into the scene. So then you see everything in the place, and then you get close up to the 2 actors, and then he realizes, oh crap, I'm late. He's supposed to already be home. So he asks her to, and she goes, "I'll drive you home." So they go to his home, where we're going to be his lovely wife and his daughter. Where I said his daughter is a lot like Lee Harker. And it's actually a fun scene. And it shows that Carter's this normal guy with a lovely wife and a daughter who's kind of like Lee Harker in the fact the way she talks. And, and they have this conversation in her bedroom. She goes, "Want to see my bedroom?" And then they're in there and they're talking. And she asked her, "What did you want to be an FBI agent?" When, she asked her about, is it terrifying to be a female FBI agent? She goes, "Yes." And then she asked her, "Did you always want to be an FBI?" And she goes, "No, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actor." And she goes, "Acting screws up kids." And she's like, "You're right." So she mentions at 20, that's when she decided to become an FBI agent. And this movie is just great. And then we get to, and she drives back to her place. I'm going to tell you, the way they light up her home is, the lightiness is so well done. The darkness really plays into the atmosphere of this movie, where things in the shadow can be, what you don't see can be terrifying, can be unsettling than what you actually see in the daylight. So we get to her home, she turns on this light, and the light is a strange, weird kind of square that lights up her inside, and then she's in her place, and she gets a call. She's working through the case, and she gets a call from her mother, and and then she hears these noises. So she tells her mother, "I gotta go. I'll call you later." And she goes and starts looking around. Then she looks outside, and you can see way in the foreground, somebody standing there. And so she grabs her gun and goes out there, panicking. Forgets to close the door. So she leaves her front door open, and she's out there, and then she turns around and sees someone in her home. Creepy. She goes back in, and then she Then she's busy and doesn't answer the phone, and it's her mother calling to see how she's doing because she's freaked out and everything. So eventually she visits her mother. I'm cutting through the movie. And this is the first time in the movie we see Ruth Harker. And if you've seen Alyssa Witt, she's beautiful. She's gorgeous. But here, they made her look beyond ordinary. Like, she somehow, with her hair's long, and she isn't wearing, I don't know if she was wearing, it didn't look like she was, they made her look a bit aged, like she'd aged, like whatever, is going on in her life is actually making her look older, even though she sounds kind of like not with it, like. And then she asked her daughter, and her daughter confesses that she never does do the prayers because they bother her mother. You'd think her mother would get upset. Her mother starts laughing. Goes, yeah, prayers really don't do anything. Yeah, kind of point out that it's crap. And she asked her, because, her name. Yeah. Oh, I missed a part. They go in, they find out the farmhouse. Yeah. And they go to the farmhouse, and that's where they find the doll. Because they find out that there was a survivor at this farmhouse, and it was Carrie Ann. And she's been in a coma. So they go to the mental hospital, and Lee Harker points out the distance. They go to the farmhouse, and her and her boss. And they end up going into the barn. And the way this is, I love how they say, look, X marks the spot, and they open, and you hear the thing open. It sounds kind of, I mean, I've seen these barn doors. When you open them, they are loud, but it's the way it's done. It makes it kind of like creepy. And then they walk in, and they walk up these stairs, and they go to this, and you can see there's a cross down there. It's covered, and they eventually, Carter opens, is able to get the wood up, and they uncover a square where the cross was. And inside it is this doll. And they take it, and the doll's eyes open. Oh, yeah. Very creepy. They take it to the mortician, to the morgue. And the guy who does autopsies, he's talking about how and the hair's real. He points this out. The hair's actually real. The doll is beautifully made, porcelain doll, but it's brain, and he puts it down, and he goes, he points out that he started thinking about his ex-wife, who he hasn't thought of in years, and they put the thing down. You can hear a sound coming out of it. Unsettling. Yeah. And then they go to talk to Carrie Ann, and she's sitting down, Lee's sitting down with her, and they're talking about, her visit, because they go to the mental hospital, they talk to the guy running the place, and I'll just say it, they don't throw it in your face, but it's clearly he's apparently supposed to be gay, and they ask if there was any security, ID check. He goes, no, we usually don't do that. Sounds like a good idea, but we don't do that. And they see her name written down, Lee Harker. So that's when they ask a question about security and everything. And so when she goes to talk to her, because clearly and goes, this is something that comes up later, is her boss asks, how does he know your name? She doesn't have a clue. And this is, we get back to her going to her mother. After she meets with Carrie Ann tells her, about her family and how essentially she was weird. And her mother thought she wasn't right. And there's this scene, it's very uncomfortable. She takes off her clothes, and she's wearing underwear and wearing I forget what they call that, skirt underneath. And she sits down and takes this knife and goes like this, and it seems to sexually turn her on. It's creepy as fuck. Her parents and then they get this doll. The doll that we saw, and the doctor, he asked about, can we open the brain? He goes, there's really nothing inside the brain. Okay, what they call the brain, which is the little metal thing. But she's, telling, and then said, my dad was fine. You've seen a flashback. He kills this priest that showed up with an axe after he cut he cut the cow's head off. And her mother basically goes in, and you think she's there. We find out she wasn't at home, so it's obvious she's looking at the doll. But this scene is done where the camera's like a box. So it's not the widescreen like you see elsewhere. It's just this scene's all, just like this, like you're seeing through a camera. And then she gets killed, hacked twice with the axe, and we don't know what's causing all this. And so she says, well, when he showed up, she woke up. So she's like, I don't ever want to forget him. She said if he told her to strangle her to death, she would do it. If he said to tell her to jump off the building, she would do it and be glad to see the ground come meet her. I'm not kidding. Creepy ass. Yeah, creepy. Complete. And she's like, I never want to forget him. Talking with this, like, kind of southern accent, like country southern accent, even though the movie's supposed to take place in Oregon. Like, she's very much from the country, and it's just creepy as hell. And so then, because of this, her boss wants to know, says, go see your mother, find out if she knows anything about, since she doesn't know anything about why the guy would know her name, and and go back to the house. When she goes out, he we find out later that was Longfingers when in her home. He left in her home this envelope, and she opens it up, and it has, a birthday card to her. And this leads to why they go and see the farmhouse, why they go to Carrie Ann, and she basically insults her and says she's a Christian stuck-up bitch. And then she goes, and then her boss says, go talk to your mother, because why would the Longfingers be sending her a birthday card? So she goes to her mother, first time we see her mother, and her mother is kind of creepy. There's something really off about Ruth Harker. And she asked her, she says, no one ever visited us, no family, nobody. And she goes, do you remember a guy or anything? She goes, no one ever came to your birthday, visited us, da-da-da. Then she, I don't know if she believes her mother, but there's obviously something off. She's clearly lying. We don't know, you don't realize that right away. It's like, okay, there's clearly something wrong with this woman. It's kind of an unnerving performance from her, because it's like, why is she talking that way and acting, and she having this weird look on her face? It just makes the scene like there's something clearly wrong with Ruth Harker. So she goes in the kitchen to make her, and then she notices this door, and I think it's an insect comes under, but the door is locked. But occasionally she sees these snakes coiling up and everything, and it's like there's something in the basement, but we don't know what it is. And then later we see Longfingers in what looks like he's on his bed, and it's red. And with the doll, we get a flashback to well, everything will come together by the third act when and she can't understand what's going on. Her boss is like, are you hiding something? She's like, no. So eventually she goes, she's at her mom's house, and then her mom goes, I never threw anything of yours out. It's all upstairs. So she goes in there, and she has a flashback when she was a little girl, and she opened her trunk and then found this box. She takes it back to her. She opens it up, and there's these photos. And one of them she goes to, freaks her the fuck out, because she starts seeing his face and all this really evil stuff comes in her mind, and then she realized this is the killer. This is Longlegs. And she goes to her boss and says, and he's like, he meets her there. We don't know that she called him, but she shows up at his house. He's walking out to meet her, and she goes, this is the guy. This is the guy we're looking for. And she goes, are you sure? He goes, absolutely. This is Longlegs. This is the killer. And so the next scene, we finally see, Longlegs. I'm just going to say this. The makeup, the prosthetics, I thought made him look like he had a very feminine face, like a woman, elderly woman's face. I'm not joking. They do make you know that he is a man. And this played into his character, Longlegs. because Nicolas Cage was asked on the red carpet for the movie, how did your character Longlegs, how did you tailor your character's performance? He goes, after his mother. And I thought, oh, now it makes sense. The way he moves, the hand movements and everything. I thought, he's a witch. Well, that plays into, the whole thing with the doll and everything. And, most people, when they think of witches, they think of Satan. And he keeps talking about his friend downstairs, yeah. And we find out he's a Satan. He worships Satan, yeah. And he's talking about Lee Harker's birthday coming up and happy birthday and you'll be there. It's creepy. And she sits down with him. I'm not going to give away what exactly happens in there, but they're talking and she doesn't remember him. And then he says, you need to go talk to your mother. This is where the third act, which is called The Birthday Girls. The first act, I forget what it's called. The second is The Letters. His Letters is the second chapter in this. It's a 3-chapter story. And something I'm not going to give away because it's, yeah. And so she goes home and she's going to bring her mother in so they can talk to her, and well, things go to shit. And basically she confronts her mother, who it turns out she had a doll, and she shoots it. And then Lee's mind all comes back to all of her memories. You see this like darkness sort of leave her brain, and she's passed out. And then we get the backstory to 1974 with her, and it turns out she had encountered Longlegs. She took a photo, and he's like I said, creepy as fuck. He's standing there, and he's talking. Her mother shows up, going, why are you talking to my daughter? And her mother was a nurse. She points that out in the movie. And he starts, and give it to Nicolas Cage. He really carries this character. And he's doing these hand movements. And like I said, he made me think of a witch with the clothing he wears. Because there's a point when he goes into the store, I think it's like a hardware store or whatever, and he's come up the counter and he sees this teenage girl, and he does this hand thing to sort of, and he does cuckoo, and he goes, and then he asks, when is your birthday? Like, I forget exactly what he said, and she goes, Dad, this ugly guy's here, or something like that, and he gets in his car and he's going, Mommy, he's screaming, Mommy, Daddy, save me from I think he said, save me from living. Holy. And it's a side profile, so you still don't see his face. It's creepy as shit. Yeah. And when we get the backstory, he's talking to her mother, and he's got a ring on his hand, and he's saying, let me in. If you let me in, it can be easy, or I can come back. And it's unsettling. And then you find out that, yeah, her mother basically, yeah. We find out that, that her mother was helping Longlegs. And how it's done is Longlegs creates these dolls where he puts the devil, Satan. Oh yeah, you hear him say, Hail Satan. So he basically allows the devil in these dolls to be able to manipulate the fathers to kill their families. And so she basically, she wakes up in Longlegs on his bed, and we realize he's been living in her. And Bowen, the agent that came with her, I'm not going to kind of fucked up what happens there, but she notices the car, the wagon, station wagon, and then Lee's coming up, and she's coming up out of the basement, and you realize that Longlegs has been living in her basement for years, making these dolls and then we find out her mother's been dropping these off, going in, able, because she was a nurse, and using the church and everything to get his work of art, these dolls in, so that he can basically control the fathers and everyone else, so he can have these fathers kill their families off and themselves. Yeah, that's actually, but the ending, now, this is, the ending of this is, the resolution of this is basically she gets a call from her boss, Carter, saying, "You're late." She gets there, well, what we don't realize that the doll already is having an effect on Carter, Agent Carter, and his wife, because her mother's there, and she points this out. "No, that's my mother," and she says that woman's already dead, and brings up about the cakes, and he basically gets his wife to go in the kitchen, and she goes, "I have to find something to cut the cakes," and he goes, "We're going to go in the kitchen, I'll be right back." He goes, "No, I'll be coming back." Essentially, you don't see it, but you hear him stabbing his wife to death, and she stands there, looking at her mother and trying to protect this little girl, the Carter daughter, Ruby. And then after you see him come out, he's got blood on him, he's got the knife, and he's coming. She says, "Stop, Carter," and he won't stop. So she shoots him once, he won't, then shoots him again. You couldn't tell it kills him. He falls down and clearly dies. Then her mother's, she goes, "Mom, stop." She goes, "Don't call." She's about to say, "Don't call me that." She gets up and she shoots her mother in the head. And it ends where she then points the gun at the doll, because she realized the doll's thing that can control people, and she doesn't realize her gun's not loaded, and that's the end of the film. So there is a resolution, but it's an unsettling way that a lot of people didn't like the resolution of this movie. It leaves it that she got to resolve her whole story with her mother, but at the same time it's an unsettling ending because we don't know where this goes next. And that's what I actually love about this movie, is the time it takes. It's an hour 41 minutes. It doesn't overstay itself. It is in every way reminds you of Silence of the Lambs for all the right reasons. And when you see Nicolas Cage, holy crap! And like I said, I thought of a witch because when you see this Satan stuff come in, and after all that, they come back to Nicolas Cage at the police station, and he's sort of dancing in the chair, and he goes, "Hail Satan." And he blows a kiss at the camera, and then the film cuts to, you hear this song come on, and the credits come down this way instead of going up, they come downward, like reversed credits. And a lot of people thought the ending was kind of shit. I liked the ending. I thought that, a movie like this, you don't want to have like a complete like happy ending. Like Silence of the Lambs sort of has an ambiguous ending, where you get the killer, but at the same time Hannibal Lecter's on the loose. But this, it's like the resolution is kind of fucked up, and like I said, the acting is fantastic in the movie. Everybody's great. And there is this scene with, I don't remember seeing adult Ruby Carter. It's Ruby Carter, and then it says, right? Okay, I don't remember adult Ruby. I remember Ruby Carter, but I'm wondering, is that supposed to be, because I know, you have, I'm trying to look, I'm looking at the cast, I'm going, Carrie Ann, this actress right here who plays Carrie Ann, her scene, because it's sort of, you see her face, but it's kind of dark, she's absolutely fucking creepy. Her lines, the way she delivers them, is just fucked up. I mean, literally. I do believe this is his wife. Yeah, because this is Ruby Carter, and they say adult, which is her mother then. Oh no, this is her mother, Ann Carter. Okay, I don't remember seeing adult Carter. It says adult Carter, but I don't remember seeing adult Ruby. I do remember seeing teenage. Maybe I missed something, but this movie works on all. It will stick with you. It's haunting. It's not a horror film. There's the mistake. It's a thriller. And people are going to sit there and go, I don't really, the ending, it's not supposed to scare you. It's supposed to haunt you. It's supposed to be creepy. And that's the whole point to this movie, is that it is a creepy movie that sticks with you and makes you go, what the hell did I just watch? Yeah. So this movie, Longlegs, and that is a spoiler for how it ends. I'm not giving away certain things, a couple scenes in the movie, or everything about the movie. I just gave pretty much the story. It laid it out that these characters, young, how, you find out as the movie progresses. And some people don't like the ending, but Oz Perkins, all of his movies have this ability to take their time to tell their story. He doesn't rush his stories. He wants the story to take its time. And this one is probably his best film he ever made because it's essentially the culmination of every other one of his films. And it's, you could look at like Hansel and Gretel. It's a horror movie because it essentially is. The story's terrifying to begin with. Then you have his Pretty Things Live in This House, which I have to watch again because it's another slow burner. And then you have his other film, which is a 3-part act that is kind of fucked up from what I understand. I haven't seen the movie, but he did write a movie I did see called Girl in the Photograph, which is really good, slasher film. But this one, it was just, it creeps you, it will creep you out. It's not supposed to be it's not a horror movie. And I'll reiterate this is a thriller like Silence of the Lambs. It isn't horror, there is a really messed up scene in the movie, a couple that kind of are shocking, but the second one isn't as shocking because you sort of see it coming when you see that, and I kept that out of the movie, but the other one is at the police station, but that's, but what I'm saying is this movie, people, I've left some things out. It's a 40-hour and 41-minute movie worth seeing. It's not supposed to scare you. It's supposed to creep you out. That's the point of this movie. Like Silent Lamb was a creepy movie. Was it a horror movie? Hell no. Did it creep you out? Absolutely. Did Ted Levine playing Buffalo Bill creep people out? Absolutely. You remember that. It's kind of like Manhunter. Brian Cox in Manhunter as Hannibal Lecter is far more terrifying and far more unnerving than Anthony Hopkins because being in a small, confined cell actually makes Lecter more kind of scary because of the fact that he has this effect on the outside world while he's in such a tiny cell. When you move Lecter to a much bigger cell, you sort of take away that creep factor about him. Anthony Hopkins did a great job, but Brian Cox, the subtly way he played it, not showing what he did to Will Graham, and Will Graham being told he has to talk to him, and then he has a panic attack. You don't need to see what he did to understand that Lecter tried to kill him. But in Red Dragon, they show you, and it takes away that whole, you don't need to show it to make it understand what's terrifying about Lecter. That's why I said. But here you have, it's like everything is it's just it's not a terrifying, it's a creepy film. It will creep you out. And Nicolas Cage is fantastic. Could I see Ted Levine play this character? Yeah. I could see Nicolas Cage playing Buffalo Bill. Crispin Glover could have played this character. Those are the 3 actors I can think of that could play Longlegs. And because they've all played creepy characters in movies in the past. And Crispin Glover is really good at playing creepy characters. So yeah, I just want to do that, and highly, highly please go see this. This movie is one of the best movies that came out this year. And it's like, yeah, I could see them do another one with Lee Harker in it, because she is, like Chris Gore said in his review, she is a very fascinating character. You really want to see more of her character in another movie, maybe. That's if they want to do a sequel to another film with her character, which I would love to see. Yeah, this movie is what I consider the best movie he's ever made. And it's not scary, it's creepy. Hansel and Gretel is supposed to be a horror movie. This one is a creepy, creepy thriller, like Silence of the Lambs. And he said this in an interview. This is essentially taking Silence of the Lambs and making it even creepier with Longlegs over Buffalo Bill, which he's right. So this is Gilgamesh. I will talk to you later. Bye.